Welcome back to the Luckbox Podcast. Today we're talking Dota. We're talking to the China Major, which starts tomorrow. Exciting times. And to talk about it, I've got Redeye, who was the host of the Bucharest Minors just now. And I've also, thank you for joining us, Redeye. But also we've got Darren here, who commentated in the Bucharest Minor. Did amazingly well. I was so pleased to see. I loved your commentary, Darren. Thanks for joining us as well.
Oh, no, thanks for having me. No, it was really good fun to be there. I'm wondering now if I was there in person with you guys, if Paul would still be trying to block my face out like that. But
no, it's just for fun.
I think we'd do it if he was here in person as well. This is fun.
Yeah. He's a pigeon killer.
Oh, okay.
Pigeon? Yeah. No, it's a killing pigeon.
Oh, it's a killing pigeon. I've been misunderstanding you all this time.
So I probably should have clarified. Like, no, it's the notion of like a pigeon that kills things, not the other way around.
Right, then that's much better. Yeah, does it kill crows?
No, it's more like humans. So yeah.
Okay, but
I got a little bit dark, but you know.
I thought pigeons are vermin, but fine. You're a dangerous pigeon.
Wow.
Fine, no.
Thank you,
pigeons are vermin.
Sky rats, right?
Poor pigeons.
Where does that name come from? Go on then, Darren.
So I used to like play in some amateur leagues back in like Call of Duty 4 days, whatever. Whenever you got like a bad matchup, you kind of like in any game you have these weird things you do to like make it more enjoyable because otherwise it's a stomp. So I used to kind of like creep up on people, and if I was above them, I'd make like a bird noise and then kill them. And then one time a person was like, "It's like a killer pigeon swooping from above." I was like, "That's gonna be trademark right there. I'm taking that."
Okay.
And that was the story.
You literally made bird noises as you swooped down to kill them.
Like, you do different things, right?
Before we get into, like, you know, how did we get our nickname, do you want to go back in time to 1996 and explain what game names you used?
No,
I didn't think so.
Let's stop, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't think so, because they weren't good, Sujoy.
Bad choices were made all around. All right, but here we're here to talk about Dota. I'm just really pleased we've got a very strong Dota panel here.
We do.
To help us. Because you guys have just come back from the Bucharest Minor.
Yep.
Where it's obviously the way the system works now is the winner of that gets to play in the major.
They do.
And the winner was actually eHome, who, I mean, I thought they looked much stronger than I expected them to be. Maybe I underestimated them.
No, I think like the internal talk between all of the talent was that we pretty much felt that eHome, Gambit, OG would probably be the top three. Keen weren't quite sure about, and we weren't really sure where NIP could have won the whole thing or could have finished last. They were kind of in that kind of form. You didn't know what you were going to get each day. So I think that was what we talked about between us, and it's roughly what we thought. So we had eHome up there in the top three. I don't think we necessarily had them and Gambit so far ahead of everyone meta-wise, because they'd got a better grasp of it much earlier in the tournament, and they were able to iterate, and they had plans B, C, D, E, and F as well, whereas other teams they found the meta and then were like, oh, shit, this works, we'll do this then. And then everyone else was like, well, we know how to play against that, so you're screwed now. So it was like they figured out something they could play, and then it got countered really easily. Whereas Gambit and eHome were had much more depth to their drafts in particular. I think that was the key for me. FNG's drafting, Zhao 8's drafting. Those two things were the key parts of why those two teams stood out above everyone else. When Peter got the draft right, NIP looked great. They have got the players, right? They look fine. When he didn't quite get the draft right, you know, and I can think of game one in the lower bracket, for instance, against him, where I don't even know what that draft was. Like, they had 5 individuals that could play 5 spots on the map, but none of them could team fight. They didn't have any damage. They were completely countered by 4 of the 5 other heroes. I was just like, I don't know what that draft is. And if I don't know what this is, no one else is going to know either, because, like, it's impossible, right? So, I think those eHome and Gambit figured that stuff out earlier. It's probably because they played more too. You know, they played a lot more through December. They played in some competitions just before this as well. The We Play tournament before. Gambit thrashed OG 3-0 the previous weekend. So for me, I think they just played more. They got a better grasp. How will eHome get on in the major though? Don't know.
Yeah, Darren. What do you think? So eHome and Gambit were head and shoulders pretty much above the others, including OG and NIP. What did you think?
Yeah, so when I was looking at, I kind of eHome looked like the favorites, right? And you were going on this run. They weren't losing at all. And I think the thing that I said is I think if they drop one game to Gambit, they'd lose because it was like a worry of momentum. They did look a bit shaky, but they did recover very well. And I think the thing to really kind of commend FNG for is coming off the back of Team Spirit. It was a team that every time I talk about it, it was, I think when I used to talk to Lizard, he put it the clearest way. It's like, this team is very good aggressive. They're like a mini VP, but the moment they get tripped off once, they just fall apart. Tilted. And and they just don't recover. And FNG seems to work better with the Gambit squad than the previous. But when I looked at the other teams, I think OG was the roll of a dice, right? Like, OG is this team that likes to play their own styles. And some people fit that and some people don't. I think the thing that I was noticing a lot whenever they like drafted around LTW was comfort picks. Like Phantom Lance coming up, Gyrocopter, there was some very weird picks. I don't think that's a hero you can make work without IO at all right now. Like, it just crumbles and is ineffective. And then, Nip was in this kind of scenario where early on in the newest meta, they looked decent. They looked relatively strong. They looked like they might actually qualify for the major. And then it was kind of this worry of whether they'd adapt. And I think what we saw here was just teams that have been playing a lot more over December getting to grips with the meta. I think one of the biggest things I saw that was a little bit weird was a lot of teams putting too much emphasis on tri-lanes. So, like, you start a tri-lane, and if it doesn't work, you rotate out. And I felt like a lot of teams missed the timings on when to give up on the tri-lane, especially when they drafted Tusks. Like, they'd hang around 3-4 minutes longer than they needed to, and they weren't netting kills. And the worst thing is, like, a hero like Tusk needs XP really early on. So I think teams that succeeded were ones that really quickly identified if they couldn't get kills in that tri-lane, go back to the 2-1-2, get the XP, and then get quick sixes.
Yeah, agreed.
I mean, what do you think of ILTW settling into OG? Are they going to stay with him? Are they going to try and find someone else?
I think it was okay, but I think if you're a TI winning team and you're 4 world-class players and you've got a great drafting, you've got great coaching, and you're looking for a standout player, you're looking for someone you can build around, you know, a Weehaw, an Anna, a Miracle, players that they've done that with before. I know Resolution didn't necessarily work out that way, but that's what they're looking for. And with all due respect, I don't think ILTW is that player. He's still young, he's 19, he's still got a place in Espada, I think, to learn his trade, and I think he could come back again at some point, and I think he'd be a really good player. He's got some signature heroes, as Darren said, like, you know, his PL looked pretty good in consideration that it's not really a meta pick right now, still look pretty good. His gyro, as long as he's got an IO with him, he seems pretty good. He knows what he's doing, but he isn't giving me the holy shit kind of vibe like ASD did, for instance, for eHome, where you're just like, Jesus, this guy's got interesting builds, he's picking interesting heroes, his team are playing around him, he understands the meta, he understands what he can and can't do at what points in the game. Like, he really, like, my favourite standout player of the whole tournament was ASD because of the way that he just played off-meta heroes and off-build heroes as well, and still made them work. He looked fantastic in almost every game, bar maybe 1 or 2 games where he looked pretty average. Whereas ILTW looked good in 1 or 2 games and pretty under par in the majority of the games. So I think OG need a player like that. They need Anna back if they can, or they need some new kid off the ladder somewhere that's, you know, that kind of level, or at least has that kind of potential. You know, like, I mean, even Ace, for instance, who I think, you know, was great last year for Secret, hasn't looked as good for NIP, but he's got that about him. You know, you can bust out an Arc Warden or a Meepo or crazy shit sometimes, and you kind of go, oh crap, we forgot about that. He's good on that. And he can give you something different. ILTW, I didn't feel like, in its early days, but I didn't feel like he gave OG anything that anyone didn't think they could cope with.
Yeah, Darren, would you give him a bit more time then to settle in, or?
I'm not sure.
What would you
like,
do
I
if
think
you were choosing.
Okay, so I think like Espada's going to want him back regardless.
Yeah, I do.
I think he fits their playstyle a lot more. They know how to adapt to him. Yeah. And as we said, OG is about these individuals that come in and they have their styles, and it just kind of, it works, right? Like, you don't necessarily say, I'm going to draft around X or Y. I'd say out of the choices right now, with the announcement out from Team Spirit that they've disbanded their roster, that does mean that Oliver, also called Skidder, is now available, and he would probably be a better fit. Like, his heroes are more meta. He does make some good plays. I know Paul's like a little bit shaky on it, but that's team spirit for you, right? Like you're not going to get these godly plays because it was a very kind of, as I said, you trip up once and team spirit lose. But Skidder, I think there's a lot more potential there. And when you think there's not many options available right now in terms of like free agents,
that's why I go back on and see what new blood's out there.
Yeah.
Do what they did when they found Miracle. Do what they did when Liquid found GH. Do what they did when they found Samael. Go back out there and test some of these kids. Bring 10, 15 of them in, playing practices. See what they like mentality-wise, attitude-wise, and play style-wise, and then mold them into the kind of player that they want. I think that was what I would do anyway.
Okay,
that's a fair point.
And one other thing from the Bucharest Minor, I just wanted to make. I mean, you've talked it to death on the show. The Boom ID GG against
GG loss.
Game 1 against Team.
Have we decided what we're going to call this yet? Is this because it's not an offensive GG, is it? It's a defensive GG.
It's not a Russian GG.
I don't know what it is. It's an Indonesian GG, is what someone else told me.
Indonesian GG?
It's an Indonesian GG, yeah, which is you GG when you're about to win, and then you lose.
It's a power play? I don't know.
I don't know what it is. I mean, there was another thing at Shanghai Major.
Was there?
Where Secret GG'd early.
Really?
Yeah. But they still won. So then they were. I think they got fined or something. They may have lost a draft ban in the next game or something because they GG'd early, and it was then determined to be an offensive GG, but it wasn't. It was actually a mistaken GG. So that's the only one I can remember, high-profile pro play where a GG has caused that kind of problem, but not a loss where they were going to win. I'm like,
Darren, you were commentating that game, weren't you?
I mean, I was speechless.
And he was completely lost.
Yeah, I think most people would say if I'm speechless, something has gone wrong here. And that was kind of soul destroying. Like they would have won that series probably if it wasn't that, right? Because that was 2-1 in the end.
Yeah.
And even like when they lost, it looked pretty close to them being able to bounce back and win. And I just look at that and it just shows you, even in this day and age when we're at the highest pinnacles of Dota and we've been around for years, you still get these mistakes that seem reminiscent of early onset for the esports scene, like 2012, 2013. And I think there's some kind of brutal overreaction to it. Like, it is a very stupid mistake, but I think one of the players had closed his Instagram account because he was getting death threats, which is never okay, folks. Like, that's not okay. That's not a step forward for esports. That's a step freaking back. And, like, another thing, when that sort of call comes out, that is not an individual call. That is a team call, right? And one guy is getting, I think it was Accelera, I forget his name now. I kept calling the other part of his name because he had, another thing, folks. The middle part of your name is the part of your name. It's dot, your name, dot, like sponsors on each side. And like, it was astonishing to me. One guy got the complete blame for this team cock up. And at the same time, it's just, how to put this? None of them looked at the base. None of the people checked the replays. Not a single one of the players looked.
Neither set of players.
Yeah, IX Mike was interviewed as
exactly.
well. He said
I
he
spoke
didn't
to
know.
Mike afterwards, and he said they didn't even notice that they had creeps in their base. So neither team noticed. And do you know what? Think about when you've played Dota. There are thousands of games that you've played, right? And think how often you've looked back on the other side of the map via the mini-map, or you've clicked somewhere else whilst you're in the middle of a massive team fight inside the opponent's base. Don't tell me you've never not clicked back and text. I mean, after you see that, you go, I always do that. No, there have been occasions when you haven't because you're so intensely focused on winning the game. Simple as that, right? That was one of those moments.
But there's like a fair point to this, and that it's a big lesson for Boom, not only to look occasionally, but like you said, that can slip through. I think the bigger problem is that was maybe 10, 15 seconds from a GG occurring through thrown dead, right?
No.
So
it was less than that. I don't know if you watched the replay, but there's literally 2 seconds.
When they tap GG. What I mean is, like, but the logic is you might as well just wait very close and just
don't
GG.
press GG.
Because, like, GG in that early, it's like there's 15 seconds difference. You're not saving time. You're not changing the state of, like, your team morale. You're just basically very clearly losing a game.
Yeah, are you really getting style points for GGing 5 seconds before you lose?
Exactly.
Really? What's the point?
Just let the throne go. Let the game finish the game.
Yeah. Well, I guess as a result of this,
that's the rule we've learned.
It'll never happen again, right? Or will it happen again?
Totally never happen. I never want any player to suffer that ever again.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that's
especially
rough, right? And they're getting a lot of grief, as Darren said, a lot of grief that's actually unwarranted. Like, be pissed off with your favourite players, be upset with them, but please don't give them death threats. Don't treat them like shit. They are human beings. They do make mistakes. We're all of us have flaws. So, just be a bit easier.
Well, they played amazingly well. They got to
They did.
this
I
stage.
think because of this screw up. That's what everyone will remember from Boom ID at this tournament, right? The problem is that actually they're better than that. They are better than that. They showed some really good form in this. They weren't always able to close out games. That's the biggest issue they've got. They're going to have to figure out how to close games out and what to do after 20 minutes. Up to 20 minutes, they look as good as almost any team in this tournament, bar maybe Home Gambit. So there's some positive things for them to take away from it. It's a great experience for them as well. They're not a massively experienced team. They are going to be back. They've got, they're in a position to go for the next qualifier for the Stockholm Major as well. They've been picked out as one of the teams for the closed qualifiers in the SEA, so that's a good start because it means that they're up there with the likes of Mineski and Clutch and everyone else. So that's a really good sign that people locally think, yeah, these guys are good enough to compete at this international qualifier level. They need to get themselves into another minor or maybe even into a major, and then put this behind them. But take nothing away from them. I thought they played pretty well at the minor.
I mean, isn't there a marketing saying
All PR is good PR.
Yeah. I mean, you heard of them now.
Yeah, I guess there is that.
Yeah. There's going to be an awkward kind of association with that from now.
Yeah.
I kind of looked at it, I was like,
saying
maybe
you
these
kill
guys should get
pigeons
a
for a
new org.
living. Right? That's not a good
Yeah,
PR
like that's
statement
the
for a guy called Killer Pigeon, is it?
I mean, I don't think they would have been Keen Gaming they'd face next if they'd won that. I really doubt. Yeah, I'm not sure, but
no, I think NIP would have played.
Oh,
Keen.
okay.
Yes, yeah, NIP next.
Oh,
Yeah, I think it was NIP and Keen on that
anyway,
side of it.
we should move on because we've
yes.
got lots to talk about
Yes.
because
Yes.
tomorrow we're
It's
recording
the second major of the season.
Yeah.
Why has it taken this long to get to major number 2 of the season?
Well, we
like
changed
last
the system.
year, it felt like we had something every week.
Yeah.
Because
we
we
did.
actually did have something every week, and we were in a different country every week.
Yeah.
But this season's taken a lot longer to. I mean, I know that we've got 4 now in the next 5 months, so that's good. But I don't know. I feel like
Are you missing
yeah,
the
I
hectic
am.
schedule of non-stop?
No. I'm not missing the hectic schedule. I'm missing watching Great Dota every week, whether I'm at home or away. Because if I'm away, I'm usually hosting something that's Dota related, if not CS or FIFA, and I'm still watching Dota whenever I'm at those events as well. Or I'm at home because I'm not hosting that way, and I'm watching world-class Dota from somewhere around, and that isn't happening at the moment. And it feels weird.
Well, it's going to be an early start tomorrow if you want to watch this because it's.
I'm
like
going to watch
like
it over the weekend.
Starts at 3 a.m. our time
I'm
something.
not going to get up that early, but I'll get up for like 6 or something and then watch from then on. And I'm going to do it over the weekend anyway because I stay up late over the weekend to watch NFL.
Oh,
and
right.
We're at a critical.
No need to go to sleep then.
No,
You
so
can
I'm
just-
basically going to be up the whole weekend watching Dota and NFL. But then during the week, no. Can't do it. Can't get up that early. But VODs and stuff, we'll get there. It'll be fine.
So the teams we have, obviously eHome qualified from the Bucharest Minor.
And they got shafted in the draft.
Yeah,
in
so
the
they're
draw.
in Group A. VP, TNC Predator, Chaos, who are
And that's Group A. VP, TNC, Chaos, and eHome. I mean, talk about getting screwed over.
Well, you say that, but I think the next Group B is
yeah, Group B is tough, but it's more predictable.
okay.
Like there's a definitive 2 in that group.
Just briefly then, Secret LGD, Forward Gaming, Thunder Predator, Group B, Group C. Okay, sorry, I'm going through each one saying, oh my god, that one looks hard.
Yeah.
Group C.
C's not hard.
Really? Liquid, Vici Gaming.
Well, Liquid are hampered now.
Okay. Oh yeah, we're going to talk about that.
Vici, who knows? J-Storm, okay. And
Well, there's-
Pango, who knows?
Yeah, there's a lot.
That Group C is the like any one of them can win it, any one of them can finish bottom.
There's a lot to talk about because
Yes.
with changes and so on. But
Indeed.
finally, just quickly, Group D, which people have said is the
Look, Group D is if you want an esports kind of like OMG, what a group kind of group, then this is your group, right? In terms of Dota, it probably isn't because it's fairly clear who the top 2 are in this one. But in terms of history and everything else that goes with EG, Fnatic, Alliance, and basically Newbie, that's what we've got in this group. Asta, as they're called now, which is the all-star lineup.
yeah.
So in esports terms, this is massive. Group D is massive, but I don't think it's a strong group.
Yeah, everyone's been saying EG got a good
Got the
pick
lucky
there.
group
Darren,
again.
What do you think of those? Which of those groups do you think is your scary one and your free pass?
I think it's clearly like I feel bad for Thunder Predators in B. Like that's a B.O. Like they got the worst
Group A's
kind
the
of
group
role
of
of
death,
anyone.
right?
Group A is just like everyone
okay. I
could
thought
easily
B,
die
but-
here, right? Like
No, Group A
I
is the
don't
group of death,
see-
Sujoy.
yeah, because like VP seem like the obvious ones, but you say about Group C. Remember, in the qualifiers, Pango beat VP, right? They got top spot. So Pango actually a threat
point.
themselves in Group C. I think they could easily take the C group.
Yeah, that's why I
A
said
is
like, Group
like
C
flip a
is like
coin.
one of those ones where all of them could win it and all of them could finish bottom.
Yeah, like we don't know what's going to happen with Liquid. We don't know what's going to happen then. I'm sure Sujoy wants to get onto the point of why we don't want to know. Like we don't know exactly what's happening there, right?
Come on then, let's talk about Liquid, because I suppose that's the biggest story, is that Miracle won't be playing for personal reasons. And Liquid have actually said we'll say when we can. They want it to stay personal.
Yeah,
so if you guys know anything,
he's
I
actually
think
a very.
it's best
If you speak to him, and I don't speak to him often at events because he's not shy, but he's keeps himself to himself. You know, he spends a lot of time with GH and the guys in Liquid, and they hang out. But he's a very private guy, and so it doesn't surprise me in the slightest that if it's a personal issue, then it's a personal issue, and we don't need to know. Yeah. And I think sometimes, and this goes for everything in esports, not just Dota or players or talent. And I think sometimes the fans think they are owed more than they are. And I don't mean to sound disrespectful because I love fans. I think they're amazing. It's what keeps us going in this industry. But sometimes I think fans get a little bit too close to us and they put us on a pedestal, and not a good thing to do, because you're only then setting us up to fail and let you down. But they also seem to feel like we owe them every bit of information about our lives, and we don't. And so I think it's right that Miracle comes out and says, no, this is something to do. This is my own thing. Please let me go and deal with it. Yeah. And I think the majority of fans will respect that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm quite happy. But the interesting thing is who they're replacing.
Yeah, Shadow.
Shadow.
Yeah.
I mean, a TI winner.
Yeah. I mean, we saw two of them in eHome, Innocence and Facebian, and doing really well for eHome. And now we get a third former Wings TI player back playing in a major. I think that's great. Yeah. I haven't seen him though. Like, I can't even remember who he was playing for, but it was. They haven't been active, right? You're a Chinese Dota guru, Darren.
Yeah.
Who's he been playing with?
I totally am, because I was just like double checking on that, because I think it was he. I'm thinking what the other two was. No, I'm thinking of a different team.
I don't think they played in the qualifiers though. The team that he was playing with.
I don't think we've really seen anything of the other two from what I can recall off the top of my head.
But I'm assuming he must be active. If Liquid have chosen him,
I know
rusty.
he's not active.
But
no,
he's
probably playing Dota, but he's definitely not active.
Would they pick a rusty player?
But they're going to have to. What other choices have they got?
But also,
I do know that they've spoken to a few different players about filling in.
But Valve,
looking now,
maybe
I think he was last on Eclipse.
Valve
Eclipse, yes.
Him.
Yeah.
Eclipse. But they're inactive, right?
Yeah, they've been
They didn't
inactive
play in the
since
qualifiers.
May 2018. It's been quite a while.
And they didn't play in the qualifiers, so...
Yeah. But maybe it's because Valve have said they're allowed to do this, and they're discussing. There's no announcement yet on whether they're going to get a DPC point penalty for this.
Yeah.
Because technically, they do.
No, I don't think
they
they
not?
do. No, because if you think about it, NIP didn't with mind control.
That was different though, right? Because this has been said that it's personal reasons, and that was visa issues. That was he couldn't get a visa.
Yeah, I suppose.
So this might be our first actual situation where there is a penalty happening on points.
And it's 20%, right?
I believe so. Yes.
20% reduction in points.
But the fact Liquid said we're going to assay soon means it could go the other way.
Without making light of this, if they win or finish second, losing 20% of their points isn't going to make any difference to whether they qualify for TI. Yeah. They're still going to make it. So, but the question is, can they finish top 2 with a stand-in?
Yeah.
I know that he speaks some English. I don't know that he's as fluent as people are telling me he is. I could be wrong because I haven't spoken to him in a long time. But when I spoke to him before on that Wings team, he had basic English. We could communicate, and it was very basic. I don't. Is that enough? I don't know. I'm not a pro player in Dota 2.
Especially for the playmaker. I mean, assuming he's going to replace Miracle, but I'm not sure about that either.
But also, look at how Wii plays with the paying team and what he did before when he had 4 Brazilians and a Romanian in the team. He often used to tell me, no, I don't even know what the fuck they're talking about in game. Like, they just say stuff and I just go, oh, they must be going for something. And occasionally they'll use the odd English word.
Yeah.
And so
chat wheel.
Chat wheel. He used the chat wheel a lot. So it's not impossible. Dota is a universal language, Sujoy. So let's just understand that it'll probably be okay.
Well, I mean, where will he play? Like, Darren, do you have any idea? I mean, like, I know
They'll chuck him
Kuroki likes swapping things around.
You could chuck him mid,
chuck him
but
mid, won't they?
For sure.
Well, no, that's the thing. Like, you could chuck him mid,
either
but you
babysit him mid or let him be
or
the
safe lane,
sacrifice.
because like you've got a lot of flexibility in the way that you kind of lane in Liquid, right? Like Martu can go mid or safe.
Lane, though?
I think mid is a safe one just from the logic of if he can't speak much English, then you're going to go, okay.
I mean, look,
he's
he
going to
might be
usually
able
be a
to speak
1v1
fluent English by now. I don't know.
Yeah, and that's the difference. Like, that's the information we don't know. If he does, then I think you can like stick him in the safe lane. You can run tri lanes around him because you can communicate. So that's going to be the big question mark: is his English adequate enough that you can stick him anywhere but mid? Because if you can't, and teams identify that, and they know his pool, they check what he's been playing, and they know from history what he's been playing, then you have a serious disadvantage. Whereas most teams have these kind of flexi roles, right? Where it's off lane and mid, or mid and safe lane.
There's a load of disadvantages already, isn't there? There's communication, there's team play, there's no practice together, and then there's the obvious one, which happens an awful lot in other games, and as far as I know, happens in Dota 2 as well, is that when the other team know that you've got to stand in and know that he's not played with you very much, guess what you do? You team fight him first. Like, you make him the focus of your team fights, so that you're getting rid of the weak link effectively, and then always having a 4v5 in your favour. And I know teams target players like that, so it's a tough ask, and that's why I tried to explain this before to people that didn't watch much Dota. The NIP finishing 4th at last major was such a significant result, not just because of the way that Mind Control played, but because they managed to finish top 4 at a major with a stand-in. It's really, really tough to do that.
I'm not sure who that speaks for. Is that Mind
both?
Control?
No,
or
I think it speaks for both.
Peter's,
it speaks to Peter's drafting and flexibility. It speaks to the rest of the team's ability to carry a player inside the team and make him feel like he's part of the team. And it definitely, most definitely says a billion things about the ability of Mind Control, who I already said I thought was one of the top 3 players in the world last year, and always the one that maybe doesn't always get. He's not as flashy as some of the other players. He's not a Samael. He's not going crazy on Storm of Spirit. He's not a Miracle. He's not an Arteezy. He's not one of those kind of players, right? So he doesn't always get that kind of kudos. But I think when you watch Dota enough and you see what he does in game and what he brings to a team, and then what he did for NIP is, we called them Liquid +4 for crying out loud. The guy was phenomenal. So. Yeah, I think it's a bit of all of those things. It's a bit of Peter's draft, it's a bit of the flexibility of the team, and it's definitely the ability of the player.
Sorry, I was gonna say, I look at it from the perspective back to the matter, like the core issue is Shadow, right? Is I think you're right in that teams target out the kind of the stand-in, the obvious stand-in. So I think the big thing to focus on is what Shadow's mentality is, because it's not as much how you don't necessarily know how the team plays. It's always the psychological barrier, right? If you're a stand-in, you feel like you're the weak link, you've got something to prove, and you're going to have to go the extra mile. And if you start failing, like, you can tilt very easily. So I think I've never met Shadow, so I can't really speak to what sort of person he is.
No,
so this actually may work out. If he's like Mind Control,
he's not going to crumble under this
he's not going to crumble. Like, get real. Like, this guy is a TI winner.
Yeah.
Like he's won TI. He doesn't get phased by big occasions. He's not blown away by. Playing with big name players all of a sudden in Liquid. He's played with big name players. He's played alongside Faith BM, for crying out loud.
Yep.
Like, he knows what it takes to win big tournaments, and he knows how to play the game inside out. Those aren't the issues. I don't think you'll have that. I think Darren's right. In other cases like ILTW, it'd be very easy if he'd gone off to a major and started playing in front of a big crowd that he's never played in front of before to be overawed by it. He's young. He's 19. He's inexperienced. Shadow's a guy who's been around for a few. He's still relatively young, by the way, but he's been around a long time now. He's been playing Dota for a long time, and he's been playing at a high level for a long time. Now, I don't think he'll have any problems on that part of it. He'll know that he's potentially the weak link in the team, but he'll also know that he's also the wild card in the team. He knows that the other team don't know much about what he's been playing recently, or how good he is on certain things, or what his builds are. And it might be that he's absolutely unbelievable. You just don't know.
Yeah, maybe he's playing on a Smurf this time. And
yeah, maybe.
He's been, hot
topic right there.
Yeah, we should bring that up at some point.
Oh, yeah.
Well, because you were probably one of those 17,000 people banned. Well, yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, we won't talk about my Smurf account. Let's talk about replacement players, because another big one, JStorm, put out an announcement quite recently.
Got young man Fear.
A young man Fear.
Yeah, we've renamed him.
Okay.
Did you not see his blog post a few months ago?
No, what was
about the fact that people jokingly called him Old Man Fear, and he thinks actually players can go on long into their 30s and be a good player. I would point out the fact that you and I were both playing at pretty high levels in our games back in the day, well into our mid-30s.
How old is he?
Well, he's 30
31,
now,
32
31,
maybe?
I think, at the moment.
Old? That's
no, exactly.
Right. Yeah,
but people are saying, they've called him Old Man Fear, and it's been a bit of a meme. He gets that, but he's also saying, actually, he's starting to feel that talent and other players are starting to sort of look at older players going, he's over 30, he's washed up. He's lost it. He hasn't got good hand-eye coordination anymore. He hasn't got good reaction speeds. Rubbish. Absolute rubbish, right? I won a Euro Cup. Not that this is relative to a major or a TI, but I won a Euro Cup, which was the best we could win at the time, right?
Okay.
I won a Euro Cup at the age of 34.
That was the most prestigious.
It was the most prestigious that we could win, right? I won one at 34. You won a LAN, I remember, aged, I want to say 31, 32, something like that.
I doubt that.
Was it not that? Oh, maybe no. Anyway, but we've both been playing. We play at a decent level now.
Yeah.
I'm reasonably well ranked in several games, mostly FPSs, I might add. And I'm 47.
I was playing Quake 4 around that time.
Yeah, you played Quake 4. You competed at the top end.
Competed, but not
top 16.
But less said about my Quake 4 career, the better.
Well, less said about my Quake 4 career as well.
But what does
my point is, he's right. Yeah. He's right. That's why I'm now no longer prepared to call him Old Man Fear. I'm now going to call him Young Man Fear.
Okay. But what does he bring to JStorm?
Jesus, what doesn't he bring?
This team, who is March, Forev. I'm doing this off the top of my
head. Moo? I think it was. Was it Brawl still?
Yes, of course.
I mean, experience is the biggest thing, isn't it? Obviously.
Yeah.
Experience.
Yeah.
But also a calming nature.
Right? Yeah. He has flexibility as well as the other thing.
But isn't he coming in as support? Because obviously Fear has played lots of positions.
He's played all 5 positions.
Yeah. So he should be, I'm thinking, is it 4 he's going to be here, I believe?
I imagine he's going to want to take some leadership role. So
no, he's not like that.
No.
Is he not?
No.
He's not
like it doesn't always work that way.
He's very passive. I don't think he actually enjoys being that kind of leader role. I think when you watched him play his best stuff in EG, it was always as a support. Not a support player, but as a support to the main captain or the main drafter. Like, you look at the EG side, right? He wasn't the main guy. It was Peter's. It was Peter's team. It was PPD that called the shots, made the drafts, told people what they were playing, where they wanted to play, how the style was. Fear was there to help support. He was there to give emotional support to Sumail. He was there to be the calm guy, the voice of reason in amongst all of the chaos. And I think that's what he can bring to JStorm. He can also, he can say to guys, no need to panic right now. We're fine where we are, or just keep them all on the straight and narrow. He's a super calming force.
Darren, you think it's a good move?
I think it kind of sucks for Millen, right? But apparently there's some internal issues. We don't know the whole story. We probably never will. But Fear is good. He's as good of a pick as you can get to get in that team to fill that gap, right? He's going to be playing post 4 according to info I'm seeing here. But it's also that case of, yes, he has this experience, but as Paul said, he's more of a calm person. He likes to just play his game. You have these kind of strong leadership voices in Dota, and at the same time, you're coming into a 4-man stack, right? You're the additional after the fact. And you don't want to try and snatch a captain's role away from someone else like that. That can be very shaky, very awkward. I think we saw something from Complexity tried that with Envy coming in, moving to the 5.
Yeah, that
took
worked
it away
well.
From Zach. Yeah, it kind of backfired, right? And that's not to say anything against Envy or against Zach. It was a bad fit, but at the same time, when you have a team and you're building around X, and then you introduce Y chemical at the end, right? You're just like the Powerpuff Girls, spices everything nice, a little bit too much, and suddenly you've just got a heap of mess, right? And that's kind of what happened there. So I think Beer
A
just sliding there.
beautiful, colourful mess.
any-
He's obviously done chemistry at school, hasn't he, Darren? The X versus Y equals complete pretty mess.
I was pretty bad at chemistry, so we wouldn't go there.
Really?
I probably
That's
would
a
have
surprise.
blown up.
I'm shocked.
I mean, I was okay, but yeah, that wasn't my speciality.
Maybe you
sure.
shouldn't have put
But-
Powerpuff Girls in the final exam.
Yeah, probably not.
Yeah.
It's not what you
You
should
know,
have done in
I
science,
tried.
my friend.
It definitely didn't look like the pink Powerpuff Girl.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting move. I think it's quite rightly viewed in a little bit of annoyance, right? Because they'd qualified and then they dropped Milan, and he's just kind of like, well, I sensed this was coming, but I don't think it's exactly on the same level of what happened with Ohio last DPC season, but it's kind of up there. I don't think it kind of passed really quickly, right? I feel like there was not much drama, which is surprising for Dota. Because we usually kind of latch onto that thing for at least a good month. But I guess everyone was getting ready for Christmas. You know, they wanted to just get their turkeys ready. So they're like, it's fair. We love that guy. We'll give it a pass.
Well, it's an
maybe.
NA team. Like, NA loves their drama.
I mean, but it's also just it's reality. You know, I know that you love drama, Dota 2, and I know that we like to see things done fairly. And reward hard work and all that kind of thing, but life's not like that. Life doesn't work that way. It's not always fair. It's not always kind. It's not always right. And sometimes teams make changes because they want to win. And I don't think that's any difference to sports. You know, I don't think anyone right now is going. Morata at Chelsea, for instance, supposedly is getting kicked out, and they're going to bring in Higuain, right? Because he can't score very much. No one right now, as a Chelsea fan, is going, that's outrageous. How dare they treat the player like that? That's disgraceful that they're kicking him out and bringing another player in. No one's. That's not drama. That's called transfer news.
Yeah.
So why do we get caught up on it so badly in Dota 2? Why?
Yeah.
It's just transfers, guys. That's all it is. They're moving players around. Yes, it means one guy feels bad because he got the team to where they got to. I would argue that Jose Mourinho is feeling a bit put out right now because everyone's talking about Man United winning 7 games in a row because they've got a new manager. Excuse me, I won some cups last season, you assholes. Like, I took you to where you are. They're the same players I bought.
Yeah.
Like, where's my credit is probably what he's thinking. No one cares about that, though. They care about the fact that he didn't win enough and the new guy is.
Yeah,
that's just sport.
Well, but in traditional sport, you have this idea of the team being this entity that exists apart from the players in a way.
Yes.
Whereas I feel like
That's a fair
esports,
point.
esports
Well,
is
we're
like,
getting that way.
it's 5 players
Yes.
who happen to be in a team
Yes.
almost. But yeah.
No, you're right. And there was a comment yesterday I saw where someone said, aren't these just the Pain guys with a new sponsor? And I was like, no, they're the old Pain guys now moved to a new team. That's like saying Ronaldo left Manchester United and his new sponsor was Real Madrid. Like, what are you talking about? Sponsor? It's a team, you idiot. But it's a fair point because I think you're right. I think fans sometimes identify with the 5 players as the team rather than the organisation they're with.
They were
Yeah.
were they Vici Storm? VGJ Storm?
VGJ Storm. No, these guys weren't.
Oh wait, sorry.
It
no,
was
I'm
VGJ
sorry.
Storm.
were.
That was the
Once upon a
organisation
time.
before, but those guys left.
Yes. They became
completely.
Panex.
They now went to Forward.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
no,
so
Yeah.
VGJ Storm
They
are now
picked up a new
Forward
roster.
plus Universe,
Yes, sorry.
right? That's what they became. And J Storm, they dropped the VGJ Storm because they're not allowed to have 2 VG Gamings, and they had 3. They had VGJ Storm, VGJ Thunder, and VG Gaming. And all of them could finish second, none of them could win. So, different story. So they had to split away because they're not allowed to do that anymore. So they're now just J Storm because it's Jeremy Lin's team. So they're now just J Storm, and it was March that then brought his March Out of Army team back to
But
J Storm.
we definitely do that. We look
Still
at the
following?
we look at
And
the 5
people
players.
think
Yeah.
that it's not drama related.
Just get your notepads out, guys. This keeps going. But it's like, it is a big issue in this scene. Like, I was talking to Pete about this. He said, I don't think players realize how much of the power they actually hold because
In Dota
it's
2
not
in particular.
orcs.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what he's talking about. Like, Dota 2 specifically is this kind of like excluded island where the ruling clan is players and the esports orgs are under them going, please let us sign you. You're worth a lot in terms of exposure right now. And I mean, some people, smart people like PBD do identify this. Other people kind of get screwed over, especially in the CIS region where they don't read the power they have in negotiations and then like sign contracts without looking. And I think that's why also like that linked to the players instead of orgs is why people get really annoyed at kind of like shuffles. I think the other big variable is probably like compared to football, for example, it's the payout, right? Like some teams do get paid wages and some teams pay fair wages. Often it's not. Often a big part of it is the prize pool. But like, I don't think the drama is usually justified because there's at least that counter argument of now in this day and age, we've kind of caught up with the kind of BS of that. And if you do get kicked from a team after they qualify or something, they go, okay, you're going to get your share though. Like you'll still get your share from the minor and the major because you were there for us for part of it. And so the drama is a little bit unjustified.
I mean, you're right. That's why the player contracts are so important. And they happen in other games, but I rarely see them in Dota 2, other than the very good orgs, obviously, the Cloud9s, the Navis, and what have you. I don't see them at the mid-level tier teams, and those teams are with players that do get to majors and do go to minors and do go to TI. And some of those players don't have contracts. Also, by the way, if you're standing in for a team, get a freaking contract, because otherwise you're not due anything after it either. And at least with contracts, there's a it sets out, if you're going to kick me, I'm due this.
I think
that's what you need.
That's
what you need a contract for. And if you don't know how to do a contract, go and find an agent. Obviously, I shouldn't push my own, but I do.
There you go. Yeah,
but that wasn't why I was coming to that point. My point is still
little insert here, very simply.
Yeah, absolutely, like little advertising at the bottom. Even if it's not with my agency, find an agent, please, because it's really important that you get protected as a player.
Yeah, and we forget this as people playing games. That actually, it's important. There's a business here. It's not just you having a good time.
Understand your value.
Yeah, of course.
It's also like a lot of the players don't actually realize the importance of it. Some of them will sign stuff without even looking. I remember, I won't give names, but like there's one story of someone who heard X had signed with Y organization and they wanted them for their team. They went, what's your buyout? And he went, I don't know. He went, what? You didn't read your contract? It's like, no, it was my big shot. It's my big opportunity. I just signed. And this is other thing we have to keep in mind is esports is, despite what we've said before, it is a young person game, as in people get in. They don't really have a career beforehand. Often they just hop in. I think the reason that the average age is so low is because there's less obligations. Once you get into like your 20s, 30s, you have other things to think about. You can't commit 8+ hours a day to Dota, but that's a whole different discussion. Is these kids, they're naive. They don't necessarily know the big bad world. They'll just sign anything. But I think contracts are sort of a way forward, but at the same time, it's very precarious in Dota because the whole logic, compare it to in football, you can apply a price to a person and sell them in the transfer window, right? We don't really have that in Dota. I think it happens in China sometimes, not so much at the moment. But you also have to look at it as, okay, if we're going to keep him signed, we don't want him to play with us. Like, a lot of orgs actually hold on to their players instead of releasing them. So, like, when I look at NA and Europe, it's kind of, I think Complexity were the best ones I talked to, is they were like, so do you still have X on your roster? And they were like, nah, dude, people want to leave, they leave. But okay, so it's very free and open because they see the realization is, I don't want a person who doesn't want to play for me at my org. Like, that's just going to hurt us and hurt them, and then our org looks bad. But then you have other extremes like China, and then the mini China right now is CIS. So CIS, a lot of people are questioning why there's not really much contest for VP at the moment. And we are seeing a bit from No Pango right now. And the reason Pango, whatever you want to call them.
And Gambit,
the reason they don't... Gambit, yes, of course. Gambit is there as well. But like the reason Pango, for example, doesn't have a big sponsor is because some of their players on their roster are actually signed with other orgs. So I was talking to a few of like the Ukrainian and Russian casters about this, who know more than I would about that area. And apparently the way it works is like you get loose contracts. So Na'Vi, for example, I don't know if he still is now, but at the time when Odium occurred, Lil was still signed with Na'Vi. And the whole logic is, okay, I don't want you on my roster right now, so we'll loose release you. And what that means is you can go like form a team. Yep. Well, it's not like a loan to anyone, but there's no money in it yet. So what they'll do is you can go form like a pub stack sort of logic, like No Pangolier, where there's no big sponsor behind it. But if you do get a big sponsor, then you have to pay, I think they call it like a gratuitous fee or something, which is essentially, it's just you're paying for the players. But for a lot of orgs, I think Goblack actually was one talking about this. He said, bluntly, a lot of orgs will look at it and go, why would I pay 30,000, 40,000, whatever for a player when I could just go get a top 500 pub star? And that's not that simple. Yeah, but when you're a big esports org, that's how they see it.
Yeah, no, I think it's overly complicating things, and if you speak to most of the agents, they'll tell you that's a very convoluted contract, and that the majority of the contracts for players like that don't need to be that complex. And actually, all they need to be is, if you kick me from the team, I leave free of charge. That's the one liner that you put in the contract, and then that means that if the team really don't want you, then they get rid of you. Some teams do put disclaimers in there. We have seen some incredible. I'm not going to tell you who, but all I can tell you is the player had been a pro less than a year, and he was being paid, I think, €1,300 a month because he was on a 30% discount because he'd been benched. And he was also then subject to a $150,000 retainer. In other words, if someone wanted to buy him out of the remainder of his 9 months of contract, they had to pay $150,000, which is absurd for a player playing in Tier 3 that had a year as a pro. Like, it's absolutely absurd. When we saw that contract, we were just like, what are you even doing right now? You've literally just screwed this player. So any teams out there, any organisations doing that kind of stuff is despicable as far as I'm concerned. And obviously agents will work hard on behalf of the player to try and make sure those kind of things are not in there. Anything that's restriction of free practice, anything that is stopping them moving should they find themselves in a position where they're no longer warranted on the team, should be able to move. Yes, I understand teams want compensation sometimes if they've paid for the player themselves or they've invested a lot of money in the player. That's the other thing, right? Whereas in Dota, that doesn't happen, which is why the contracts can and should be much looser. And should be more flexible in terms of the player side of things, because ultimately, the scene does change a lot. I think it's a lot steadier than it used to be. Like, you look back 2.5, 3 years ago, and
it's almost unrecognisable, actually.
Yeah, we used to have changes every week. Players would fall out, they'd jump ship, they'd go and form another stack, they'd pinch another player from another team, ruining another team, and then that team had to find someone, and they'd steal someone else, and then they'd get upset with someone else that stole someone, and he wouldn't get on with him, so they'd get another player from another team, and suddenly it was just a minefield. It was a train wreck. Almost every big event that we had throughout the year, 3 years ago, we'd have a completely different set of rosters on all the teams. You can't follow a team like that. You can't build anything around them. The organisations are going to get frustrated as well. So, we're getting into a lot of detail and depth that we probably don't need to get into. But the bottom line is, don't sign contracts without advice.
Yeah. Well, speaking of signed contracts, Pain Gaming are no longer Pain Gaming. They're signed by Chaos Esports Club.
Yes, who used to be Digital Chaos.
Yeah.
That finished second at TI.
Okay, explain to me this then. Is it not Digital Chaos? They're called
Chaos Esports Club now.
It's rebranding. It's a rebrand.
I don't know why, but it was something to do with the DC name.
Oh, could be a...
You could kind of see why,
There's another prominent DC in the world, isn't there?
Indeed.
Okay.
Yes. So it could be something to do. It could be unrelated. But they rebranded Chaos Esports. It's still Greg, Suns fan, all the guys over there. And to get a team of this caliber is great for them.
Yep.
I think it's really, really good for them. And to get Misery back, who is their original captain when they made the TI run to second place. So that's a nice little... story as well, and getting Weehar back because he was also on the team at the time. So I think it's a nice.
Well,
it's a nice story.
Remember there was controversy around Pain. We just had a chat about this earlier.
Yeah, let's just be really upfront about this, like with viewers who are tuning in and thinking, "What are you talking about? What controversy?" Well, go back and find it. Anything we talk about from now on is uncorroborated. Like, we just don't know. There are only certain facts that I know for sure, and I know Darren knows as well. And that is that we know that we and Misery were not signed under contract with Pain. They were playing as freelancers effectively, and a proportion of the winnings. They had no contract. I have seen one of the under contracts, and I'm not going to talk about it because it's unfair to that player. And then people, I think, would understand where I'd got it from, and that might put someone else in position. But all I'll say is this, is they were not good contracts. If all three of the other players were on the same contract, which I assume they were not good contracts. They weren't as bad as people made out. They weren't, letting them live in squalor or mistreating them in any way. It wasn't like that either. But they weren't great. So the fact that regardless of what happened with Pain, and I'd like to think that the people behind Pain Gaming have good intentions, even if they went about it in slightly the wrong way. I think these guys are much better off in Chaos, and time will tell. But I think, having known the management and the people behind the club and the association, I think it's a much nicer place for these guys to play for.
Okay. Yeah, I'm still a bit unsure about the logo and the name that they're playing under, but
yeah,
you know, it's still if we're going to see Wee Misery.
Gents, it looks like there's a snake trying to eat wheat. I'm not gonna lie, or its own tail, and I'm not sure how that fits in with Chaos.
Yeah.
And it looks like a tyre with gold writing on.
Yeah.
So all of those things are just not doing it for me. But other than that, I like the people behind it and I like the organisation.
All right. I mean, but Darren, do you think Chaos Esports Club? Oh, I'm still gonna have to read it every time.
Esports Club as well. It's like the club at the end, right? Like it's a little bit different. Yeah, no, that's a little bit of obsession with the whole Ouroboros thing, right? Like that those kind of snakes eating themselves thing was like 8 years ago. Everyone was obsessed with it, Netflix series, whatever else. It's a bit behind, Greg.
Okay.
You know, you could have spun a little bit more modern.
What are their chances? Now they're fresh. They've got a new organisation. They've got things to prove. They've hopefully got good contracts. Yeah.
Like, I think it's better because, you know, you don't have to worry about everything outside the game and around it. Pain have always looked pretty damn good, in fairness, and their rate of improvement has been steady but constant. They've gone through, I think they've gone through the immaturity phase. Like, I'm sure Paul knows some of the stories behind things that happened at tournaments. And some of them are amusing. I think they won't mind me sharing one the early days where there was a big call made for a team fight, and one of the players, you can probably guess who, didn't come back to defend the base. And then they yelled at him and went, "What the hell were you doing?" And then they realized they'd been saying everything in Portuguese. So he didn't understand a word they were saying.
I wonder which player that
Who
was.
Who could it be, right? And it's great, though. It's like, it's a cute, innocent story. It's like, it's a perfect example of how you go through those teething periods to come to where they are now. But they've kind of gone through these jokey phases, these immature phases where the stories I hear of like teams and players that have been around for 6-7 years, the things they would have done the first year or two, they've done that now. They're now serious. They were serious before, but, you know, they're not making on their time off outside the game silly little mistakes or choices. And also, big hype because they have got the big boosting factor of UK coach T Governor. That's right. They brought in a coach, and it's a UK player. That's right. UK isn't just on the talent anymore, guys. They are now
Governor.
Yeah, T Governor, who doesn't have
Robson.
a wiki page.
Yeah, he's like, so he's been
Page
grinding
does not
up.
Exist.
No, he's been grinding up the ranks. So he's a 7K plus MMR UK support player, exclusively POS 5. Really nice guy. I met him in Birmingham. I think he's also like right now, especially for the UK scene, we don't really have good role models as players or coaches to look up to. And the people that we kind of look at are maybe a little bit more cranky or a little bit, shall we say, toxic. They don't really inspire you. No,
I know Code
players.
Red
all right, I'm not calling you out, Paul. Right? I'm
Dota,
saying, like, from a player perspective, people who are trying to make it, right? They're very, they're very kind of typical.
Pyrian Flax is the beacon of UK Dota.
Oh, okay, yeah. Sorry, Ted, but like high-ranking players, right? Like, give me that. That's a fair point.
Pyrian Flax is a high-ranking Dota 2 player.
Okay. I'm sorry. It's because I keep seeing him in his low-ranking Smurf. I know now.
Yeah,
I know. He's on his low-ranking Smurf when he plays with
there it
Shane.
is.
Wait, was he? Did he have the lowest win rate, prediction rate? And no, he wasn't the lowest, was he?
Yeah, no,
he was.
He wasn't. Of
course,
was he? Oh, he did manage to get to the lowest.
KillerPigeon, by the way, for those that don't know, finished second.
Second?
Yeah.
Who was first?
1% difference.
The God, Cinder God.
That's fair. I think you can be proud of that, Darren.
Yeah, very.
I am.
1%
I'm very proud,
lower than Syndron, yeah.
But to go back to the point though, just to point out like what you need when you're trying to kind of cultivate an esports scene, I think, is to have good role models, people who show you how to play the game, positivity, maybe a bit funny. Think Sing Sing, right? When Dota was getting started. Hey, there we go that way. But think Sing Sing when like Dota was getting started up, like, you know, he might clown around, he might say some angry things, but it was always comedial and it was always enjoyable, right? And I think, like, to give an example, I'm not going to name the streamer, but I remember one of my friends was trying to get into Dota, and they clock into the Twitch area for Dota. They have a look at what's on. They click on a stream, and all they see is a guy walking down mid and feeding. And it's like that's the problem right now, is you need more positive kind of role models. And I think having someone like, if this works out, if T is actually successful Chaos as the coach, it kind of like shows you a side to UK Dota that is positive, that is fun, is enjoyable. Because genuinely, that like he's one of the nicest guys I've actually met in the scene, hands down.
Do you know what I've got in my head? I'll share you with you a dream I had recently. All right,
Okay.
You may have read this story before or even seen the movie, but bear with me. Basically, T-Governor goes to the second major of the season with DC, or as they are now, Chaos, and does really well. Right? Team does really well. They finish top 6. That's a decent result. Great. For the third major, they're about to head off to Stockholm. They've qualified. They've done really well in the qualifiers. He's now the full-time coach. They get there, they land, and unfortunately one of the players is ill. And T-Governor has to step in as a position 4, play the matches, and he's so good that he gets the MVP award for the entire thing, signs for OG, who then win a second TI, and we have a UK champion as a TI winner.
You've signed it down for me. I'll take that story. All right? Country close to home.
Is it
that.
too
Now we need one on board.
No,
It's like we've got to keep even with our friends across the channel.
If that happens now, by the way, call it right here. Wrote the script for TI9.
Cinderen's crown. We'll give you Cinderen's crown if that happens, and forever they can all bow in your presence.
But on a serious note, good luck to T-Governor, and thanks for finally getting a non-talent UK British person into a major.
Do you know if he's UK based?
I don't know if he's UK based.
I haven't met him.
He is.
I'm gonna
right now, at least. I don't know if they're going to move.
We've got someone that isn't a talent.
Yeah.
Going to a major for the first. Like, I don't know. We haven't had a single player from the UK go to a major or TI.
Okay.
That's terrible.
Well, I want to do a future podcast though about coaching. Coaching.
Do one with him.
I'm going to talk to him, reach out to him.
Do one with him.
Come on. And Kips said
Kips as well. Yep.
She'll come on as
Kips
well.
Kips is fantastic. I love Kips.
Yeah, I want to do some coaching. But anyway, we've got so much to talk about, and I feel like we're
kind of
so long.
We're cruising through slowly, but
we're getting through. The other one was on my list is No Pangoliers being renamed to. They were No Pangolier.
Yeah.
I suppose a tribute to
the Pango.
No Tide.
So hold on. So you want to talk about a team who have changed from a really good name to a really shit name?
Do you think it's worse?
It's pretty bad.
No Pangolier is like No Tide Hunter. It's perfect. It's great, right? It suggests that they're like, bloody Pango. It's bloody annoying.
They've got the logo
kind
of
exactly,
the
right? It's cool.
Paint
the Pango? Like, what are you talking about? That's like No Tide Hunter suddenly be called The Tide. Actually, that's not a bad name.
Yeah.
The Tide. Do I like it
work.
Alliance? The Tide.
I'm not sure.
Shit, I actually do like that.
I think Alliance is better.
It depends if you're like a wild
Alliance is definitely better than the Tide. But come on, stop doing that. That's not a news story. What are you doing? What is this? BuzzFeed? For podcasts?
No, it's criticism time. Let's talk about how crappy the new logo is. All right, where's the old one? I love that innocent-looking Pango.
Yeah, well, look,
it's a feather. It's a feather.
Okay. No, it's still got the stock marking crashes on it.
Yeah, which looks like it's been stolen from a website that you should have paid for it for.
No, Pango or the Pango would never do that.
Do you think
or Odium or whatever else.
Do you think the MS Paint logo with a Pangolier with a...
Yes, it was
so much better.
It was much better.
Like, there was another team that had No Bounty Hunter, which was like the Mango Squad. And it was great. It was a crappy drawn Bounty Hunter. And it was also... It sent a message because they had a really good Bounty Hunter player. So every game, they just had it banned first phase. And, like Pango, they had a very decent Pango player as well in Ghost Stick.
Do we like this style as well? Team turned up to Bucharest with the incredible jerseys.
Oh, I love those jerseys.
They were amazing.
Want one.
They were the best thing about that event.
Okay, so they've got it backwards. They've gone from awesome to black.
But it's intentionally shit.
Yeah.
Like, that's fine.
Yeah. Okay.
It's also super ahead of the curve, which is it kind of goes to Mike, right? Like, he shaved his tash down, and someone asked him, "Why'd you do it?" And he went, "Everyone else has got a mustache now. It's not cool anymore." So he's now got the new jerseys, right? We're gonna get to the next minor. Everyone's gonna have those type of jerseys, and he's gonna have something new, like, I don't know, probably like tank tops next time.
Do you know, this reminds me. Like that. This reminds me of a story that I don't think I've told before. Basically, you know Carmack from Intellectual Extreme Masters and ESL, right?
Yes.
And you know that he's a bit of a joker from time to time. So many years ago now.
That's a huge understatement, by the way.
Understatement.
If you've ever
he's
met
a very
Carmack.
big joker. Never leave your Twitter open when he's around, by the way. He will post stuff. He basically, I can't tell you the backstory because it's a very personal backstory, but basically, he came up with this thing, which was this, right? So he would go, and he would do this to all the Korean players, right? And because we didn't really have much English Korean going on, over a period of a couple of events, he would always do this when he went up to him, be like that, and then it'd be like, oh. And so they'd do the same thing, right? And then they started doing it at the end of their matches and in celebration because they thought it was like a really cool... It wasn't a cool thing. Just let me just put it out there that it was a very rude thing.
I'm actually not sure what it means.
No, and you won't because it's a very personal... That's why I can't give you the backstory.
Okay.
All I can tell you is
Right.
it came from a circle of people inside ESL that when we were in Singapore together, Carmack played a trick on someone that ended up... Anyway, but it comes from a story a long time ago before that, but I can't tell you what it was. Okay. But all I can tell you is it had nothing to do with winning or nothing to do with StarCraft or Koreans. But for somehow, Carmack managed to persuade all the Koreans to start doing this. And then everyone started doing it. He literally made it spread throughout. This is the same thing right now.
Okay.
He just has his self-gratification. Like, every time he sees an event, he goes, that was me. I done that. But he won't tell us why. But
have you had Carmack on this podcast?
We've had Mihao on, yeah. I'll bring him back and maybe... Oh, is it not a story to explain?
No, I don't think we can ever reveal... It's one of those that I can't probably even reveal in a book at some time.
Oh, okay.
Maybe 20 years from now, Carmack can reveal it.
Mihao's one of my favourite people, apart from Present Company.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah, one of my favourite people in esports of all time.
Yeah, same. But he can be a real swine with the tricks. But I tell you what, he's a man of his word. Yeah. When he loses a bet... He will do what he's agreed to do. For instance, when he lost a bet to me, he had to dress up as a bumblebee with a tutu skirt. And he did. On camera, by the way, on a show.
Okay. This is a Dota show, by the way,
We're
guys.
moving on.
All right.
There's a major coming up starting tomorrow. Darren, as a commentator, who are you excited about? Let's go through these teams. Who are you excited about? Who do you think is favourite? Like, what are your picks right now?
I feel like Secret is just an obvious choice to always select as really far up there. LGD as well. Like those are the two front runners. I think they are still remain the two front runners that everyone is looking to, inspired by, and
that's why I
trying
thought
to get
that was
ahead
the scary group. But fine, yeah.
No, because they're. They're so strong.
It's not scary. It's depressing. That group is depressing. Think about Thunder Predators, all right? They have families, and they're just going to be massacred. Maybe they won't. That'd be an amazing story, right? Thunder Predator just destroys everyone. It has. It's just like 5 white outlines behind the monitors. Like, what's happened here? Wow.
Hello, is that our Dota 2? I'd like to report a murder, please. This is a tough group
I don't know. That would be the best story, though. Yeah. That would be the best story. Can you imagine if Thunder Predators actually beats everyone, comes out top of the group? Everyone's like, all right, this is... Yep. We never saw this guy. Because that's probably the team that everyone's expecting nothing from, actually, in fairness. Because, like, eHome just won the Minor. Asta have proven themselves before, of course. Pango beat VP in the qualifiers, so they are like the big player in the CIS right now. Big shout out to Sealer actually, because a few months ago, I know me and Kyle gave that guy a lot of flack on panel because there was some serious suboptimal plays. He has really turned it around as a mid for Pango, so proud of him. But yeah, Thunder Predators are like they're expected to be last, which is mean to say, but
yeah,
someone has to be.
I think someone has to be. I think it's probably going to be like Secret, LGD, EG. Top 3. And then the Chinese team is going to be in the mix there, obviously.
Secret
but like
LGD,
of the ones I know, EG looked strong at the last major though. Like they looked pretty damn good. They really.
You're going to base EG finishing top 3 as an EG fanboy.
All right, not top 3.
That's what I'm uncovering right now. You are an EG fanboy. Right?
No, I'm not. I said
I'm
top
uncovering
3.
you. The truth is out there.
Secret top. Right?
You are an EG fanboy. You are basing your entire theory of top 3 finishing at this major based on EG's finish at the last major under completely different patch when you've not seen anything they've done since.
This is true. But none of us have seen anything though, Paul. That's the other problem. We haven't seen anything, so they're either going to like just beat the crap out of everyone.
Did you not watch qualifiers?
That's true. I don't like NA was a little bit snooze time. I didn't actually catch too many of the EG ones. So I'm still like, okay, let's put it this way. Secret LGD, obvious top 2, right? Like those are the favorite runners, right?
Where would you put
Pango is definitely in top 5. Really? I honestly believe
top 5.
Yes.
That's bold.
Yes, VP is still incredibly strong. Come on, let's be fair here, right? And they beat VP.
You wouldn't count VP out of a major early in the season.
No, you don't count them out this early. But like after the qualifiers and the way things went, you can say our VP won't come on full hardcore at them. But it's like, dude, it's the qualifiers. You want to get it over with quickly. You want to be in. So I think Pango is going to be a surprising force to reckon with, and one that a lot of teams like haven't really had a chance to adjust to.
Okay.
Looking at the rest of them, I mean, I'm always rooting for Alliance because I just love the story behind that team. I love how long they've been together, right? I'm always going to be fans of those guys.
The coach there.
Yeah.
He's going to be standing
Load
behind
is,
them.
yes.
Yeah.
He's going to be there for them.
In
but,
the booth,
you know, I
assume,
still
drafting and so on.
Well, the thing is, I love the kind of story between Mike and Insania, actually. Like, I was interviewing them in KL, and I didn't realize this. They played together for 8 years. Obviously not just Dota, so they done Hon before, but 8 years, all right? They are like the fly no tail of Hon.
Oh, God, don't go there. We know how that
Yeah, don't go
ends.
there. Not now, right? But they've maintained that relationship. So it's kind of a beautiful thing, right? Is they've been together this long. And you root for people when you kind of hear that story, right? Like, they're essentially esports brothers.
People have still got PTSD from that handshake.
Yeah,
so
they're still
be careful.
shaking in their chairs and in their corners.
My shoulder's sore as well. I don't know. Which one was it, though?
It'll be right, surely.
I don't know. I can't remember.
Left
Yeah,
one?
no,
Yeah, left one.
I don't know. I mean, you know, you're right. It's a wild ride right now, picking any of these teams to win. But you know what? Here's the video clip for you. The date is the 18th of January 2019, and we're recording this at 12:27. See, that's pissed Sujoy off now because this will actually go out later. However, the reason I have timestamped this is because I'm going to make a bold prediction here. The winner of this major will be eHome. And you can play this clip back and call me a god when I'm right.
eHome, did you see them play Vici Gaming
Yes.
in DPL?
Yes.
They lost 3-0?
They were saving strats.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a tough one. I mean, we want to talk about the Chinese team. This is a Chinese major,
Yeah.
but you know, I put LGD, Vici Gaming, eHome, Asta. So eHome winning this?
Yep.
I'm gonna make a
Zhao
bolder
Wei, Master
prediction.
God, drafting God. He's the one out of all these that's gone back after this minor and gone, okay, that doesn't work, that works, that doesn't work, that works, and that works. Here's my plan A, B, C, D, E, F, G. I already know.
The meta's very draft-based right now as well.
And
Yeah,
they've got Zhao
most
Wei
definitely.
and Innocence drafting between them. That gives them an advantage straight away over the other three Chinese teams, in my opinion. And then they have the wild cards. They have these two new kids who are hungry as hell. Like they're not going into this with that great weight of expectation on their shoulders. Like I've been to China a lot, right? I've worked in China a lot. I've been to a lot of Chinese events. If there's a difference that I see in players like SCCC or any of the Vici guys or basically any of the top professionals that you know and love that have been around for a while, right? If I notice anything about the difference between them when they come to Europe or NA and when they're playing in China, it is that they look stressed when they're playing in China. They don't look happy, they look stressed because they have got massive pressure on their shoulders to win.
Okay.
Like the expectations of winning in China. You know, you're on home soil. We're talking about a set of players who are almost indoctrinated into, you know, loving their country and being part of the scene and being respected and going out and representing China on the international scene, and they do that so well. When they play at home, though, I feel like there is so much pressure on them. You know, it's the opposite effect of, oh, we're playing at home, everything's easier. No, I think it's harder for the Chinese team. Look at the success of Chinese teams on Chinese tournaments over the last 5 years. Can you find many examples of it? You can't. Last year at DAC, IG, that's it. Like, and that was a fluke. It was an absolute fluke. Like, it just came out of nowhere. They weren't even expected to, right? You look at DAC, this was the year
You're
before,
right.
right?
I mean,
Last year, terrible. First DAC, EG, all over them. Super Major, LGD, sure, no problem, understood, but everyone else was terrible. All the other Chinese teams failed miserably. We're talking about LGD being the last team in the top 6 on a Chinese Super Major. Like, what are you doing? So if you look at all of the historical evidence, you'll see that there's a lot of pressure on Chinese teams. You won't understand it as a fan unless you've been there in the city, experiencing, you know, these guys are superstars out there. They are literally mobbed and seen every day. People harass them inside the hotel. Like, you know, it's a big deal in China.
Fan is the right word.
Absolutely fanatical
fanatical
out there.
Yeah.
And then think of the expectation on top of that of 20,000 people turning up every day inside an arena, cheering you on and feeling that kind of pressure. It's not for everyone, right? Some love it, but most don't. You know, ROTK, Zhao 8, they loved it. They think that's amazing. But they're two of the few that do, right? These kids, ASD and Ego, they don't give a shit. They're from a different generation of Chinese Dota players. They don't give a crap. They don't give a crap about egos. They don't give a crap about previous experience or history or way of expectation. They're just here to win. I don't care how they do it. They're the perfect models of Zhao H children, right? And he is not just a dictator, as someone called him in our Bucharest coverage. He's the director, right? But he's also the guy that they look up to most. And then add that, they've got Innocence and they've got Faith Bian. Two of the greatest Dota 2 players that have ever graced the game.
Yeah, of course.
It's the perfect symmetry for me. I love the makeup of this team. I'm super excited to see how they get on.
And this is a Chinese year, obviously.
Yeah.
The final TI9
Yeah.
will be in Shanghai as well.
Yeah.
Darren, what do you think? I genuinely don't know what to say to that. eHome predict. That's bold. That's very bold. If it happens,
it's bold.
It would be a beautiful dream.
Yeah,
It would be a beautiful dream, right? You go win the minor and come win the major, which is like, for reflection, was Tigers last? They came last at KL, or was it like top? It was bottom 3 or 4, I think.
Bottom 4 for sure.
Yeah,
Yes.
they done pretty bad. So the bounce around to go from like the minor team doesn't really compete that well to suddenly a major, come to a major from the minor
But this
winning
minor
would
was
be
much more competitive.
super hype. Definitely. Like at
Much more
the high
competitive.
end, I think there was some teams that we like but then other teams, you had 4 or 5 teams that were okay, any of these guys could take it.
Yeah. And we're
I think-
talking about a minor that had OG and Nippin that didn't finish in the top 3.
Yes. But in fairness, at the same time, it's like you can't compare our team now to like 6 or 7 months ago with meta change, everything else, and like we said with the OG example, ILTW was either going to be a strong home run or it was just going to be a complete miss. I feel like it was a miss. NIP is a team that has a lot of individual talent. I just don't feel like the draft. I feel like they kind of got caught behind on meta or something. I don't know who they've been scrimming with or whatever, but I've heard that like a big issue right now with scrimming in general is teams have 1 or 2 teams they'll do it with and that's it, right? And it's like it's very exclusive. So if someone's doing things elsewhere and you haven't prepared for it, and it catches you off guard, it's very hard to change the way you draft halfway through a tournament sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I know that, for example, like he is this type of guy that has a plan. Like he's laid out what he's going to do for like the first 4 picks or so. So he doesn't get phased by people who kind of pick X or Y. He kind of anticipates. He tries to control the early point in the draft. And if you're throwing something at him that hasn't been seen really in this patch, then you could probably catch him out. I think that's kind of what happened there.
Maybe.
But yeah, no, like eHome definitely did look incredible at the minor.
surprise.
But that Group A is going to be vicious. Yeah, that Group A is going to be vicious, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I thought Gambit were going to win the minor.
Yeah, me too. And then
Based
when
on all
eHome
previous
played
form,
the way they did,
how they were playing, meta, drafting, coaching, everything. So the fact that eHome beat them means that
impressed you a lot.
I now have a new favourite team to watch.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Okay,
we'll see how they get on.
My pick is the boring secret, but I'm a secret fan. What can I say? We've been going on for so long, and I wanted to get in a few questions from the community. If you don't mind, we'll just run through these quickly.
Let's do it.
I won't do too many. We've been recording for a long time. Bukev's from our Discord community actually wants a question for you, Darren. You've made a quick rise as a caster. What's the best tip you've received along the way? And also, congratulations, Darren. I loved seeing you at the Bucharest Minor. I hope we're going to see lots more of you this year. Yeah, what's your best tip?
Thanks. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I'd say best tip. First event, Dream League Season 9 was Blitz. He said the important thing is that you are listening. It doesn't matter what you're doing. The important thing is that no matter what is said to you, you're taking it in, you're listening, you're processing it. You're not just saying screw you. Because the moment you say, this can apply to anything in life. The moment you lash back at someone for saying something that might be valid, they're never going to say anything to you again. They're never going to give you any advice. They're going to go, screw it. Why would I risk it? He's just going to bite my head off. And that really helped a lot. I think just constantly listening to people has helped me improve a lot as a caster in the last year. And I'm always thankful to people who it doesn't matter whether you're a fan, member of production, caster, host, panel, whatever. There's always something useful you can take away from a conversation. It's just a matter of whether you want to take something useful away.
Okay. Awesome. I'm going to try and get through these quickly. A controversial one. No. Riley's asked, how are the talents invited that get invited to TI decided? Do they lobby Valve? Are you just magically picked out of the air? I mean, how are these things? Is there a discussion anywhere? I suppose is the question.
Generally, the way I understand it, and it can change, but generally how I understand it is that the people that work at Valve put a name on a board that they like, and then if a number of people challenge that name and come up with several reasons as to why that person shouldn't go, then they don't go.
Okay.
And then if they're left on the board at the end of the period of time that people are making those considerations, then that's the talent that are signed.
Right. So
it's not something that we lobby. I mean, obviously we can lobby, but I think generally speaking, I think agents lobby sometime, but it's not lobbying. It's more like, hey, Valve, are you going to use X person this year for TI? And they go, we don't know yet. Or they go, yes, we will. And then we go, okay, great.
Right.
What's next?
Yeah. But it's not. You're not sending a case of this is why this.
No, it's a very different experience with Valve over using
say ESL,
other tournaments and ESL in particular, PGL, DreamHack. They're all very similar in the way that we go back and forwards with them, whether we're talent direct or whether we're agencies with them. It's a very similar process and it's getting better. It's not great still, but it's getting better. ESL, for instance, we're talking about year-long deals now, which is great because then it gives them more stability. It also keeps costs down for them because we can negotiate lower wage. What you're doing is you're saying, I can lower my rate if I've given more guarantee of work. Therefore, that saves you money. Is that something you want? Yes, it is. Okay, great. Let's sign a year-long deal. Okay. So those are becoming more prevalent now than they ever have been. It also means that we know what we're going to put in our diaries earlier in the year. Like I know already I've got, I think, something like 11, 12 events in my diary for the whole year. That makes planning much easier than it ever did before. 2 years ago, even just 2 years ago, in January, I sometimes didn't know what I was going to be doing in March.
Yeah,
and that's 6 weeks away. Like that's absurd. Like 4 years ago, I was still getting called 2 or 3 weeks before an event, going, "Hey, do you want to come and do this event with us?" And I'll be like, "I've already got one." Oh shit! Oh, I should have done it earlier. Yeah, you should have come to me 3-6 months before and asked. And so that stuff's getting better. It's still not perfect, but it's getting much better than it used to be. And those kind of things happen a lot. You know, talent agents, they're definitely lobbying different organisations to come and do something because otherwise they don't know if you want to. Like I've been told before, we would totally have asked you if we knew you were into FIFA. What do you mean? I did FIFA in 2005. What are you talking about? Yeah. I always loved FIFA. But the company didn't know that until I did a FIFA event with PGL, and they were like, "Oh, I didn't know you did FIFA," and I was like, "Yeah, of course."
Well, I suppose
we thought you were Dota.
The Dota world's different though, so I imagine it's they have a rough idea. But I mean,
but
Darren, this is important for you to get some tips as well. I'm sure you want to be in the running for TI9.
I'm writing down right now. I love to go TI. Like that's the dream for anyone who's like talented. Sure. That's literally the dream.
Yeah, when you've been to 1, you want to go to 2, and when you've been to 3, you want to go to 4. So
there's never an end,
it never
right?
stops.
Like,
no.
As a spectator, when I went into the arena at TIA, I looked around and you kind of like take a deep breath. And I'm like, this is the dream. I want to be here one day. I don't know when, but I'm going to get
I think you've done a very similar journey to a lot of young casters, though. I think back to someone like Cap, for instance, who flew to a TI to start with, watched it as a viewer, as you did last year. The second year, he wasn't invited, but he did something alongside. And then the third year, he was invited as a caster. And then the fourth year, he was a panel member and a caster and a drafter and everything else. So he kind of went through. Slacks has done exactly the same thing. Slacks went out the first year, he went as a spectator. Second year, he was doing side content. Third year, he was actually on the show. Fourth year, he's like, pivotal point of the whole thing. So I think, a lot of casters and a lot of talent have gone through that kind of that long walk, as it were, of hard work and commitment and dedication. And it's worked for them.
Okay, well, we got to keep moving.
Yeah, sorry.
We've been going over an hour. I'm just worried about you guys. Okay.
No, I'm good.
All right, I'm fun.
CS, this is a fun podcast. I think it's the best one we've ever done. I'm not just. Thanks, guys. Anyway, CSC is asking, with all the China drama, is this TI going to be a successful one? Because there has been obviously drama around Cuckoo and Scam.
Yeah, I mean, look,
it's kind of died down, actually.
Yeah, as long as the local government don't get involved, I think it should be fine. I've done a lot of events in China. Some of the early ones weren't successful; they weren't very good. In the last 2 years, since PGL partnered with Perfect World, after what happened in Shanghai Major, I think every event we've done since has been very good. Some have been outstanding. Super Major springs to mind as being, an outstanding event last year that was not only well run, but, brilliantly broadcasted. And a lot of the staff from both Perfect World and PGL had learnt all of the things that players hated or disliked, talent hated and disliked, and improved on all of those kind of side issues that made it tough for us to go and do, and made them actually quite nice to do. And I think the fans generally enjoyed it as well. I think the time zone is tricky. Obviously, for anyone outside Asia, it's a little bit trickier. Europe seems to be the best one because you can kind of get the hybrid between North America and Asia. But it's no matter where you put it, someone's going to be upset. So there is that. You can't deny that. And finally, I'd say, what does all the drama have to do with whether the next TI is successful or not? It has no bearing on it, other than if the local government do decide to get involved and then start banning players or denying visas, and then it leads down a very ugly rabbit hole of, if you're going to start doing that, then what else are you manipulating, and what else can go wrong, and then boycotts happen, and then talent gets upset, and then teams get upset, and players get upset, and fans get upset, and then it could be a shit show. I don't think it will, though.
Okay.
I honestly don't. I don't think Valve would place their faith in the people that are going to be working on the international, the crown jewel of our year, and think that it would go bad. I can't imagine that anyone at Valve would take that kind of risk. And so I trust them that they've made great decisions, they've appointed the right people, and that regardless of location, TI is TI. It is the best of the year. It's the biggest and best of the year, and it doesn't matter whether it's in Toronto or Seattle or Shanghai or London next year. By the way, it's looking really good. It's really nice at that time of the year. It's lovely, really pretty. Anyway, it doesn't matter where it is, right? It should be still an amazing show. So no, I don't. Hopefully the drama doesn't have any impact on it.
Yeah. Okay.
Also, one thing I would say on that is, I'm hoping what they'll do is they'll reserve a certain number of tickets to begin with, at least for international viewers. Because one thing I would say is China always turns up wherever you do an event, right? Chinese fans will go because they love it.
They turned up to Vancouver, that's for sure.
They did. And what made TI8 so great is that when you got to the final, right, obviously you need the variable of having a West versus East scenario, but you had a split. You had a full divide in the stadium. There was cheers for OG. There was cheers for LGD. My only concern is
2/3 LG, 1/3 OG.
Well, OG's very freaking loud then. I'll go give him that credit. But you get my point, right? If we're talking about home turf for China, and you just let everyone get the ticket at the same time, it's going to get bought up by the Chinese. There's a good risk you have a 90% to 10% split of Chinese versus non. And I don't think you get the same atmosphere that you get at an event. The reason that Birmingham, for example, was amazing to run an event in is it didn't matter what we saw.
No,
we just cheered. We just loved it.
Yeah.
And that's what you want at an event.
I think they kind of adopted the Pain team as their own.
Yes.
But other than that, it was a celebration of Dota, and who doesn't like a good underdog story? So I think you're right.
Oh, and if Chaos are there again,
yes,
they've got a English.
They've got a built-in fan base already.
Well, they've got a British coach as well. Then I take it.
Yes, they have.
Wait,
So they're fully. They do.
That's
they do.
right.
Yeah.
No,
So
that's one we
they'll be fully British now. We'll give them British passports. I'll go and sort it at the Home Office next week.
I mean, they won't be allowed into Europe by then, I guess. But
well, no, they won't be allowed in Europe anymore. But at least they'll be able to get into the UK.
Hey, let's move on.
That's all
Shadow Blades has asked, "What's going on with OG? Can they get out of their slump? Is Anna ever returning?" I guess.
Can they get out of their slump?
I guess
yes.
he's seeing Anna's left and now OG in her slump.
Yeah.
Should he?
Can they get out of their slump? Yes. Is Anna ever returning? Probably not.
I mean, it goes a long way to show on True Sight, right? He didn't even turn up for that. I think Anna's kind of done with Dota. And it's a shame actually, because that guy has so much natural talent.
Yeah, no, he's a great Dota player. He's a great guy when you get to know him as well a little bit. But he is painfully shy. He doesn't like the limelight. He doesn't like all this travelling and the fuss and media day and stress of being asked interview questions, and he doesn't like that stuff. Okay. He doesn't like the fame and everything that goes on. He just wants to play Dota. Yeah. And if you go and watch him now, all he's playing pubs. Yeah. Okay. During the minor.
We've talked about OG though, so let's not dwell on it. Gongers, who's been on our Discord servers a lot as well. He's from the Philippines and he's on Australia right now, so he's not going to see this till tomorrow. But he's in the right time zone to watch the major, which is great. Recent news about Valve resetting Smurf and Booster accounts. Should the ones who benefited from it be punished? I guess people who boost accounts, should they be punished on their mains and all that? Ugh. That's a
I see what you're saying.
area. I mean, even on the premiere of True Sight,
Yeah, I mean, the problem is...
Johan admitted to having a Smurf as well.
I have a Smurf.
Yeah.
I don't have a Smurf to boost anyone. I don't have a Smurf because I'm better on one account than the other one. Actually, I think my Smurf account is actually lower ranked than my normal one, which I guess is what most people would complain about. But the problem is that I can't play on my main account without getting victimized.
Oh yeah, of course.
I just can't get away because all the historical stuff will let you know that it's Redeye. On my other account, you'd never be able to work it out. I've never been asked ever.
There's sometimes good reasons.
Yeah, and so that's my reason for Smurf, and I do it in other games as well.
And for Johan, I imagine he's spending an hour queuing for a game and thinking, look, just make another account.
Yeah.
Like there comes a point where
there are
it's
those
like,
as well. But
how
my
long
point
do I
is,
wait?
I'm not doing it for any ulterior motive of trying to piss anyone else off, because I also understand I get Smurfs in my games, right? And they ruin my game, either good or bad, right? Either get a Smurf who's basically been boosted that high and he's terrible, which then ruins the game because we're playing 4v5, or I get a Smurf on the opposite team who's basically, you know, a godlike pro-level player and he's playing with his mate because he's trying to boost him, right? So he's the kind of guy that goes 40-0 on a PL, and you're just like, but I can't kill this guy, and my team can't kill this guy, and we're going to lose the game, right? So those are the people that are ruining the games. Yeah. They are ruining games. They're ruining my games, and it's really annoying. I am not out there as a Smurf trying to annoy anyone or ruin anyone's games. Yes, my MMR is slightly lower on my Smurf account right now, by a couple of hundred MMR. We're not talking, 5k difference between the two. I'm playing at 3k instead of 8k or something. We're talking a couple of hundred. And sometimes it's higher than it is the other way around. I'm not doing it for those reasons. I'm doing it to hide my identity because I get harassed if I play under my name. So there are some genuine reasons. That said, I totally agree with Valve's stance on it. I think Smurfs should be banned out of the game. The problem is, because like he says, should you punish them, right?
I don't think they've been banned, though. They just reset the MMR.
They reset the MMR, but which means they're pointless anyway, right?
Yeah.
They're completely pointless. But he's asking, should the mains be punished, right?
Yeah.
You can't do that. Because all Valve know is that there are two accounts playing from the same IP address. What if that's my wife or girlfriend or brother or sister or mother or dad or uncle or cat?
You can't penalise someone if you can't.
No,
be
sure you need to match that person to that account. You can't do it. It's always usually under a different email address. I know mine is. Mine's under a completely different email address because I never want them to find my Steam account and then go, oh, it's that same email address, therefore it must be that same player. Oh, it's Redeye. Yeah. I don't want them to be able to do that. So I've got a completely separate Gmail account on it as well. And I'm sure other people have to. But it could be legitimately other people. What happens at unis?
Yeah.
When 40 people play under the same IP address. You can't ban 39 accounts and go, yeah, we'll just let that one go through. So I admire Valve for going this far and resetting 17,000 accounts because that's all they could really do.
Well, did they ban them? And now
they didn't. Sure. They didn't ban them. They reset them.
I don't think they banned them.
Yeah.
I think it was a reset, and it's like a lot of people I heard say, "Oh, that's a very small number." It's like Red's right though. You can't just ban people because you think they might have smurfed or you reset.
No, it's actually very difficult to prove.
Yes.
In our minds, it's not because you kind of go, look at him, he's just went 46-0, he's obviously a smurf, he's playing 3k and he's an 8k player. Yeah, no, I get that, but mathematically and algorithmically, how do they figure that shit out?
And
that
it's
someone's
also...
going to code that stuff, right? Someone's going to code that to find it.
It's really not possible. The amount of research
I think it's possible, but it's very hard.
And there'll be false.
Yeah, well, you need a huge department, and like with the game changing all the time, it's just hard to track. And I think some people said, why not something like Overwatch for CS:GO? It's like Overwatch is used
different.
primarily for cheating.
Yes.
That's the thing. Like people think that you can use it for smurfing. You can't, right? Like, imagine if you used Overwatch and CS:GO to detect CS:GO smurfs, right?
But you can
people who are like
smurfs.
super high ranks.
No, you can report Smurfs in CS into Overwatch, and then someone watches the video back. But I can tell you, as an Overwatch person in CS:GO, right? This is careful because we're talking about two different games. We're talking about Overwatch, which is a system inside Counter-Strike Global Offensive, which people opt into. I'm one of those people, right? I will when I log in. I don't log in very often, but when I log in, I will have a bar at the top that says, "Would you like to watch some Overwatch stuff?" and tell us whether you think this person's cheating. You then get to watch the demo. There are no names on it, so you don't understand what names they're using. You just get to see the player, and then you make a decision at the end: is this person cheating or not? It's not, is this person smurfing or not? Or was this person abusive in game or not? It's, is this person cheating?
And that's the difference. Like, you can't apply that. Like, smurfing is a variable grey area, whereas cheating is very clearly...
What happens if you've just had the game of your life?
Exactly.
Yeah. And there was...
I've actually had a game where I had 44 kills.
Yeah.
44 kills.
Yeah.
I've never done that in my time. I think I've never got over 20 before.
And then if Valve turn up and say, you got someone better to play for you, didn't
Exactly.
you? How would that feel?
I'd be devastated.
Yeah.
It's also the variable outside it, right? Because heroes. Let's say I go 40 kills in Ember, and then I'm playing, like, I don't know, let's say I'm playing Mirana, I get 2 kills and 10 deaths. Oh, he must be smurfing.
Yeah.
No, maybe I'm just very crap at Mirana and very good at
Darren,
Ember.
how many times have you had it in your game? And I don't get this that often, but I've had it where someone has said, nice smurf. And I've typed, which one? And they went, ha ha, yeah, you, exactly. And I'll go, wow, you called me. I'm so happy right now. You think I'm that good that I'm smurfing? That's amazing.
It's like being called a wall.
It's like you get called an aimbot all the time in Unreal Tournament.
Yes.
I was just like,
yes.
yeah, well, I've got good aim. What can I say? Yeah, no one's got that good aim. Well, thanks for the compliment. I would literally take it as an honor badge, right? And I do the same when someone calls me a smurf in either Overwatch or in Dota. And it doesn't happen very often to me. But it happens to all of us at some point because we have sweet games now and again. Like, we'll have an amazing game. How do you then, like you say, how do you monitor for that compared to, an argument would say a smurf would probably, more likely would go, 44 kills game 1, 37 game 2, 56 game 3, 94 game 5. They would keep doing it, wouldn't they? But it doesn't always happen like that.
It's also
and then what if
certain
the
heroes.
system traps you or me?
But it's also certain heroes. It's like there's an argument certain heroes are just very good at doing that, and that's how, like,
what if your
the person
GPM is always over
rankings,
1,000, but you're playing Elk?
There you go. Like, there's so many variables. Like, Dota is a very complex game. I mean, I'm not trying to say, CS:GO is simple, but like CS:GO has a lot of flat, constants, right? Whereas Dota, you're talking about over 100 heroes. Yes, it's on the same map, but that doesn't really change much.
But the combination.
I don't think the complicate. No, I think it is just as complex. I think both games are very complex, and they're both.
Oh yeah, definitely. But like the things you're looking for.
But in terms of judging whether someone is smurfing or not, is actually tougher in Dota.
Yeah, and there's the variance in pub play when you're picking different heroes and you're getting matched up.
That's not to say that it doesn't happen in FPSs, by the way. It happens a lot.
Definitely,
I get it in Overwatch. I get it in Counter Strike. And believe it or not, I still can't even believe I'm saying this, but I even get it in FIFA, which is just ludicrous. Yeah. Like, come on, guys.
We're going to have a game of FIFA and see how good you are one day.
Yeah, I'm not very good, but there are some guys out there. I'm like, what are you doing with your life if you're having to smurf in FIFA? Like, there's something wrong with you.
Gong has also asked, and he says, this is the most important question we've ever had. I don't know if Math wrote that or not. He's asked this a few times. We missed it in your Q&A the other day on Discord. Pineapples on pizza, yay or nay?
Yay.
Me, yay. Darren?
Nay. Although I've never bothered to try it. I like meats on my pizza.
Well, I do too. That's why I have a Hawaiian.
Yeah.
But like, I know you can have the pineapple with the, is it pork?
It's just pineapple. It's like saying onions on pizzas or not.
Okay, let's swiftly moving on.
I'm not the best person. Like,
enough pizza. We've been going for an hour and a half now.
Please don't bully me for my pizza choices.
Yeah, you're going to be harassed off Twitter now.
Excuse me.
Someone's Phoenix Sardi's asked about the miracle situation, but we've already talked about it. So the last one, Arteezy, not the Arteezy, I assume. No, it's got an I in it. He wants to ask our opinion on who's In Your Dream going to sign for. Can he make steps like mid one? So In Your Dream is, from what I understand, like the #1 C player. He was at Tigers, and I guess the example with mid one is mid one sort of got this Western play style that works really well. And he's saying, can In Your Dream, and I imagine if you're from that area, In Your Dream is like your star player. You're making a face there, but will he transition to the West? I suppose he's been playing with 1437 and Moon Meander?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I'm not convinced.
I mean,
Tigers
are not here.
As for which team he'll be signed, all I know is right now is I've got 2 or 3 Dota players who aren't signed for big teams that I'm trying to help find big teams, and it's really tough right now.
Yeah.
Like, most of the teams don't want to take a risk on an unproven young player.
Unproven, but Tigers won Dream League.
It's a short
not real
TV though. That's the thing. Everyone wants these big flashy players that have 2-3 years plus.
Like circumstantial more than it. Like, you've got to do it several times.
That's
if
not
you're
enough
gonna,
to convince
No,
a team.
you've got to do it several times if you're going to prove that you're up there and you can do it on a regular basis. I don't think he's a bad player, but I don't think he's an outstanding player. And I also think it's very difficult when you're not an established pro, and I'm talking, like a Fear, a Misery, a Kuro, a Mind Control, those kind of guys. They can walk into any team, right? No problem at all. He's still in the slightly unproven kind of category. I know he's won a tournament,
He's
sure.
very talented as well.
Very
There's
talented
no
for
doubt,
sure,
no
but
doubt.
still in the unproven category of, if Anna can't find another team in between leaving OG and going back to OG, right? Proper team to fit on. Weehaw, same kind of thing, has had to go to South America to find himself a team that he's going to enjoy playing with and accept him for who he is and his play style. And we're talking about world-class players who've played well at TI. We're talking about players that finished second at TI, right? If they can't find a team, how is this guy going to find one? How are the three guys that I'm trying to help find big teams? How are they going to find big teams? They won't. And big teams aren't taking risks at the moment. The same way as EG did with Samael or OG did originally with Miracle,
well, that's what I was saying.
or with Weehaw, or with a number of
like
D-Stones recently as well. That teams aren't taking big risks with players that aren't proven over a decent amount of time.
Oh, have we left behind the days where Weehaw turns out of nowhere, Miracle suddenly comes and blows us away? Are those days over? Oh.
No, I don't think they are. But I think right now,
super rare.
Because of the position we're in, we're halfway through the year leading to TI. There's 4 majors to focus on and getting us to TI. That's the focus right now. And in between that, we'll monitor who's doing what and who's going up and down. And then maybe after TI, or even just before, if we're not qualified, maybe then we make some changes, take some risks on players that we've never had. Look at what OG did with Thompson. Like, we were all talking about Thompson internally for months before, right?
Thompson? Yeah. Oh, well, you were talking. You knew. I had not heard of him.
Talent were talking about him.
Yeah,
Players
he was
were talking
top
about
MMR.
him. Yeah, for a little while.
Oh,
Probably like 6 months before, people were talking about him as being, he could be quite good, but it's such a risk to take him. No one really knows what he's like. They haven't really played much with him.
I didn't
Don't know what
realise.
his attitude's like. He seems quite quiet, but that's okay. Sometimes quiet. Anna works, for instance. Anna's quite quiet. Still worked okay for him. And people were saying, is he the real deal, or is he too narrow in terms of what he can play? Maybe he's just an invoker spammer. There was all these questions coming out. Same that came out when Miracle came around and GH came around, and all these other players came off the pubs, and there was a number of people talking about taking him. I think Kyle, in fact, wrote him off. Kyle actually wrote him off and thought, he's flash in the pan, he's just an invoker spammer or whatever.
Yeah.
And actually, it turned out he was the real deal, right? It's so hard to find these gems, but somehow No Tail finds them.
I was sitting with Yanis before the OG game.
Yeah.
He said, there's no way. Sumail's going to destroy Thompson mid and then game's over.
And he didn't.
No, he didn't.
No. And it was pretty much the only one that hadn't up to that point as well.
Well, the same thing happened recently, right? Well, with Secret. And their new shining star they picked up, right? Like, he was so sought after. Actually, like, around TI, I knew like several teams were thinking about getting him. There was bids made. The other one alongside him was Mike. So it was like Mike and Nisha were the two most sought after. And that only happens around TI because, as Paul said, everyone's focusing. They don't want to take a risk. If you don't know, like, if you don't think you can qualify to TI because your roster didn't win any tournaments, then you go, okay, last 2 raw, let's take a chance. I think it just kind of echoes an issue we have in Dota where the difference between the tier 1 and the tier 2 scene is just so huge. And while we look at the minors, we go, okay, this is helping the tier 2 scene. I think someone, I can't remember who it was talking to in Bucharest, put it correctly, is it doesn't actually help the tier 2 scene that much because you actually look at the breakdown on what you're getting, where you come in that tournament. It's so huge, the difference between like top 3 and the rest. You could actually change the format. So say you get $10,000 for each team, because the reality is whoever wins the minor, the big prize is they're going to the major, right? So it's like they don't need crap tons of money on top of that. I think there's just this big issue. There's not enough money for these people who could be really good, but they can't go full time. I mean, you just echo issues that occurred in the past, like the 322 issue is a perfect example, right? And Arrow Gaming was no one. These type of things happen because people weren't able to make a living, but they love the game that much. And I think we still just have this core issue, even with the minors coming in, where there's this gap. I think if you introduce something like weekly, monthly tournaments where there's like a pittance, a small amount of money, it's enough that someone could get by. It's not enough that it's going to attract the attention of like RTZ or Envy or all these big players, but it could help actually cultivate a scene that isn't just tier 1 or nothing, which is one of the big concerns, because after a few years, it's scary to think where Dota is going to be if it stays at just tier 1 or nothing, because you have to have new talent and new players that keep coming through at a regular pace.
Okay,
Yeah, sustainability is tough.
We absolutely have to wrap up now.
Okay.
It's been so much. No, this has been so much fun. Thank you for coming on, Darren, again. Really appreciate it. It's actually been really
Thank you.
enlightening, and good luck for TO9.
High five.
I'm trying to...
Go. Wait.
I'm stroking your face somehow. I don't know.
Oh,
Anyway,
okay.
I was just saying thanks.
Thanks for coming on
Where
again.
we at? Let me just pat him on the head.
Nice. Oh, thanks. That's awesome.
Thanks for coming on again, Paul.
Kinda
We had a
working.
long day doing the we had a long day doing the Q&A with you. Thanks for that. Was like a long
fun.
day, and then
we got to
broadcast.
watch True Sight afterwards, which was a joy. We didn't even talk about that.
We haven't got time.
True. Oh wow. There you go.
Didn't even talk about
That's
the
for next time.
greatest
All right,
esports
wait, well,
documentary shot of all time.
Let's do this again later. But we absolutely have to go. But before we do, let me just remind you that our Discord server it's getting really lively.
It is
since
actually.
the
You should come and
Q&A.
join. I do hang out now and again as well if I'm atted. I do join him.
A lot of discussion. So around the China Major, if you want to hang around with our group, because we're talking about the games and what's going on.
It's like a
quite-
cleaner version of Twitch chat.
Not that much cleaner all the time, but yeah.
Don't see the filter bot.
So Discord, it's discord.luckbox.com. It's probably on the overlay there. We're on SoundCloud as well. If you're watching us YouTube, we're on iTunes as well.
Very useful SoundCloud, by the way. For people on mobile, just been able to listen to the podcast.
Yes.
That's why I always try and remember this isn't just a visual thing; it's an audio thing.
Yeah, and that's why I put such little effort into overlays and cutting things in.
It's like right now, the people that are on audio can't see me doing this. See, now you've got to find out. See.
Yeah. Well, you can go onto YouTube then. If you are listening on SoundCloud, go check us out on YouTube.
Segues brought to you by
Yes.
Redeye.
And now we've got to leave because we've all got to get to sleep soon because we want to watch the China Major
Indeed.
tomorrow.
Oh,
thank you.
I haven't just got to watch it. Turns out I just got a message. I'm casting 2 of the series, boys. So that's good.
Nice.
You're casting.
Remotely, but I'm
Amazing.
casting some series.
Congratulations.
That
feels
means you have
good.
to get
Good
up
to be
at
involved.
3 a.m. and do casting.
No, much earlier than that.
Wow.
2 a.m. start time. So,
What
Brilliant.
a
yeah,
star.
sleepy bye.
And I like to think that you coming on this podcast has made that happen. So you can thank me
It
later.
has been magical. I only just got the message like 10, 20 minutes ago, so you may be
Brilliant.
right.
Brilliant. Congratulations. And more from you, I hope, like I say. Thanks for joining us. And we'll have to do this again. We genuinely have to do this again because this has been the most fun I've had for a long time. Thank you and goodbye.